Yeah, there he is. Yeah. Take it.
Boone and Crockett Country, presented by Loophole.
Those who have fought for the traditions of hunting over this past century, and still to this day, have a toolbox filled with meaningful and relevant examples that support the need for and importance of recreational hunting. Sadly, sportsmen have had to reach into this toolbox more and more in their own defense, as the number of those who question hunting's place in a modern world, or those who flat out oppose hunting, has grown in recent years. It may be hard for others to comprehend and accept the sense of tradition and heritage associated with hunting, or the camaraderie, life skills, respect for wildlife, and the code of fair chase that binds them all together as legitimate reasons for hunting. The fact is, when the killing of wildlife is involved, all of these truths sportsmen know fall on deaf ears. One undeniable benefit of hunting that is gaining acceptance is hunting's historical role as a game management tool. As more of the non-hunting public sees and feels the negative effect to private property and human safety as the result of the overpopulation of certain wildlife species, their attitudes toward hunting can change. The state of Maine is blessed with having the wilderness most often only associated with western states or the Canadian provinces and Alaska. Maine is nearly 90% forested, and much of the big north woods consists of a human population of one person for every 100 square miles. As one might expect, with such a low human population and vast unbroken habitats of forest and stream, Maine has a rich diversity in wildlife, from moose, black bear, and white-tailed deer down to lynx, marten, beaver, and a cadre of other thriving species of game and non-game. The issue in Maine today is not this rich diversity in wildlife, however, but moose. Too many moose, to be exact, in many areas. What does a state do when crops are being rampaged and highway injury and deaths are on the increase due to wildlife numbers? The answer, the only answer that makes sense both economically and socially, is a regulated hunting harvest for population control. David Hentosh is an outfitter. Like most North American hunting outfitters, he has a passion for wildlife resources and the traditions of fair chase hunting. This past year, with growing cooperation from the Maine Department of Inland Fisheries and Wildlife, Hentosh and his guides were able to help address the state's moose citizen conflict. As Hentosh explains, the state increased the annual harvest permits for moose to address growing human-wildlife conflicts, and for the first time, 5 special moose tags were earmarked for special veterans to take part in a controlled hunt.
Landowners under the controlled moose hunt may apply if they own 80 acres or more in the 9 townships open to this. They must hunt on their own ground. So their permits are designed to help reduce the moose car collisions. The veterans tags now and the guides tags are designed to help reduce the depredation.
It was on the news when I heard about this special permit that they put out for veterans there, and I was really happy to hear about it. I never thought I'd have a chance, but I put my name in anyway. I didn't think I was going to be able to make it because of the little problems I had, but I'm here. They got a good program going on. I hope it keeps on going, because the guides up here are perfect. I couldn't ask for anything better.
I deal with veterans all the time, but this is my first moose hunt. When you get together with veterans, our fellow veterans, doesn't matter which war period you're from, we all have same kind of experiences. It may be in a different country, it may be in a different era, but we all have same kind of experiences, and it's a great opportunity to get together, talk, and share those kind of stories a little bit. We don't always want to talk about some of those things, but I spent 28 years in the military, and I had more good times than I had bad times. I served 3 tours in Vietnam. I know what back-to-back things are. I know what the kids experience today. I run over a landmine. I don't understand what TBI is. You know, I got knocks in the head from a lot of different things. You know, but the part is really, you know, where we take these things and say as veterans, we want to help each other. We want to get out here. And the other marvelous thing is the public. We couldn't do this thing by ourselves, guys. I mean, I'm not a registered guide, and I couldn't take you moose hunting with a darn, you know. But we have people that help us. We have those people in the public. Paul House from the House in the Woods program, Dave Hentosh and Smoldering Lake Outfitters. These are the guys that stood up to say, okay, Peter, thank you, we're going to take it on. And they did that for us. And the free guides like Joe and Brad and all the other names of the people, we owe them a great thanks because they took the time to come out and help us for free.
Boone and Crockett Country is in partnership with the Wild Sheep Foundation, putting and keeping sheep on the mountain, and the Dallas Safari Club, promoting conservation and ethical hunting worldwide.
To the early settlers of this country, much of the lands west beyond a day's ride from encampment were considered wilderness, full of deer, bear, waterfowl, and birds. The lands of central to northern Maine were no exception, but these were also the lands of a much larger deer, the moose. Big and relatively easy to fell by musket, unregulated hunting for meat and leather took its toll on Maine's moose by the end of the 1800s. By the early 1900s, the North Maine woods only had a few years open to moose hunting, with a statewide closure taking effect in 1935. At the same time, the human population was making inroads into northern Maine, and land use practices across the state were changing not only the composition and abundance of forests and fields, but wildlife as well. By the late 1960s, the spruce fir region of the Pine Tree State was at a high point of mature softwood, and these stands, while beneficial for some species, didn't produce much in the way of moose habitat. According to Lee Kentar, the state's wildlife biologist for deer and moose management, this region underwent a drastic habitat change that really benefited moose populations.
The moose really came through in the 70s and into the 80s with a lot of changes in the forest in the North Country. So really, there was a lot of harvest activity into the 70s and 80s. We had this insect called the spruce budworm, and the budworm took out a tremendous amount of mature spruce and fir across Quebec, New Brunswick, northern Maine, that whole area. And of course, most of northern Maine, west of where we are today, is spruce fir commercial forest lands. And that was the biggest influence, completely changed the dynamic of the forest up here. And so in the 80s, we had an amazing amount of forage being produced that was really a boon to moose. And so our moose populations really came up and up and up in the 80s, into the 90s, and today.
The timber salvage work after the budworm die-off that opened up the forest to young stands of forage has led to what is now a moose overpopulation problem in some regions. By 1980, the state legislature, after much debate and public scrutiny, decided to open the state's first moose hunt in 45 years. What started as a modest harvest quota at first has slowly increased to keep up with what is arguably the fastest growing large ungulate population in North America. But hunting isn't the only thing Lee Kentar is challenged with.
When you look at Maine's moose management system, we're fairly conservative in how we issue our permit numbers, because Maine really tries to balance both the importance of wildlife viewing with hunting opportunity. And of course, when people talk about Maine, it's synonymous with moose, it's synonymous with loons, it's synonymous with lobsters. When people come to Maine from away, everybody wants to see a moose.
Insights presented by Loophole, America's Optics Authority.
A good binocular is an invaluable tool in every hunter's arsenal, but you won't be seeing the full potential unless it's been matched to your eyes. Hi, I'm Tim Lesser. Even the best binocular can create eye strain and headaches if not properly adjusted. Most binoculars are now using a center focus system, meaning you use a wheel in the center of the binocular to change the focus setting. The diopter adjustment, typically located on the back of the right barrel or as a part of the focus wheel, accommodates for the slight differences in visual acuity between your left and right eye. To properly adjust most binoculars, cover the right objective, keep both eyes open, and use the focus wheel to focus the left barrel on a distant object. Then cover the left objective, keep both eyes open, and use the diopter adjustment to focus the right barrel on the same object. Both barrels have now been matched to your vision, and all focusing can be done with the center focus wheel.
Optical Insights has been brought to you by Loophole, America's Optics Authority. Boone and Crockett Country is in partnership with Buck Knives, knives that fit your life, and the Pope and Young Club, for the good of bow hunting.
The baseline for the stunning recovery of moose in Maine was a population estimate of just 2,000 animals in 1900. Today, this number is in excess of 30,000. Past viewing and hunting opportunities, biologist Lee Kentar and his team have a most unique wildlife challenge on their hands. How do you mitigate crop damage and deadly vehicular strikes with an animal that has the appetite and size 8 times that of a white-tailed deer?
Not only do we have a lot of agriculture in this area, but we got some pretty decent, from Maine standards, road systems going up through this area. And so you get a combination in this part of the state where you have a lot of agriculture, actually more in this area than any place else in the state. You have some roads that people are traveling up and down, and a fair amount of traffic, not as much as in the south. And then you got moose that are roaming around the landscape. And so it's become a fair problem both for vehicle collisions and also for crop damage. And we're trying to address that with what we call a controlled moose hunt that we've had for right now is our 2nd year.
Game managers asking sportsmen to step in and focus their efforts to address a specific wildlife problem is nothing new. In broad context, sportsmen hunt the surplus of game to maintain a balance between habitat carrying capacity, herd health, and socially acceptable levels, all based on the best science available. This has been the successful general hunting season approach used for decades, but additional controlled hunts offer game managers an added tool to manage our wildlife properly.
This becomes a really targeted, focused way of removing animals. And when we have a controlled hunt, it gives us the flexibility to work outside the normal recreational framework. So in Maine, in this area, we usually have 2 split seasons for the recreational season, which are each 6 days long. And now we can sit there and we can expand that as long as we want. And so now we're looking at a 5-week hunt. We backed into the summertime when the guys are having crop damage, the farms are having crop damage. And now we're able to address that situation for a longer period of time. And we're able to move around where these farms are and put hunters in where we're getting damage right now this year. We've worked out a system where we're able to get registered Maine guides who have a high level of skills to bring in sports to take care of moose that are in these areas as well. And we've combined that together to create this controlled moose hunt.
Why bring guides into the solution? The answer was simple. If avoiding crop damage is one of the main goals, experienced guides can position their hunters so as not to drop a moose in a crop field where recovering the animal would mean even more damage.
The guides, when they were asked, none of them even hesitated. They all wanted to participate and work together as a team, and that's what we're all about. It's a 100% team effort focused on the whole group as well as the individual, but to the good of the whole.
Mike MacArthur was another lucky vet. one of 5 distinguished American veterans to be drawn for a special controlled hunting permit.
We'll take a walk around that next bend there. We can see better up that way. Yeah, he's coming. Back up. Back up. You hold that while I make a call. Oh, here he comes. Here he comes. Yeah, there he is. Yeah. Take it.
Take him again. Nice shot. Let's go up and take a look at him. Yeah, he's done. That's a nice bull.
Yes, beauty.
Yeah, nice. Nice job. Look at that. He's probably about a 42, 43 inch. How many points you got on him? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 or so. You see where he's been fighting and rubbing hard. Looking at one time, broke off.
Yep. It's kind of a neat one here that comes out.
Yeah. I'm guessing he's gonna go, he'd probably go 750 pounds, dressed weight probably.
Yep.
Yeah, you did a good job, and
Hey, I appreciate it, Joe.
no problem. Nice thing you didn't drop him in the broccoli.
Yeah, that worked out perfect when you called him in.
Yeah.
I've been hunting before for him, but this is the first one I've been able to get, so I hope they run the program again next year. So, appreciate it.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
You did a good job, and appreciate the guide service up here, too.
Boone and Crockett Country has been brought to you by Leupold, America's Optics Authority, and the Boone and Crockett Club, fair chase and conservation since 1887.
The state of Maine has a problem. A good problem, considering it is the result of one of the most fascinating wildlife conservation success stories we have to celebrate today. Nevertheless, too many moose in certain areas is creating conflicts within the state's agricultural breadbasket. If excessive crop munching isn't enough, increasing vehicle collisions are a serious threat to human safety. The solutions rest squarely on the shoulders of state game managers and sportsmen.
We take our job as managers very, very seriously. You know, we take a conservative approach to managing moose in the state, but again, like I said in the beginning, we're trying to provide a lot of things for a lot of different people. And back to our controlled moose hunt, here's this situation where, you know, we're thinking pretty proactively and dynamically about how to take care of a lot of abundant moose in this area, but still have enough out there for all these other people who have other and varied interests. So we hope our moose population stays strong, and we'll continue to monitor that population and hope that we can continue possibly a program like this into the future as well. But this controlled moose hunt we look at on a year-to-year basis.
Like Lee Kantar and so many of his counterparts across the country, wildlife officials are turning more and more to sportsmen to assist in game population reduction and management. It is important to know, as game managers do, wildlife programs on the ground are fluid, and with the number of stakeholders who enjoy wildlife, they need constant vigil.
And we feel like this program with moose has been really a novel approach. And again, as I mentioned before, it's very different for whatever reasons than dealing with deer. So I think we've done a good job of addressing that. I think a lot of people are satisfied. I think the farmers have been satisfied with that response. And again, it's a dynamic thing, so it's not set in stone. So we have some flexibility to change that as necessary and deal whatever comes down the pike with it.
As for the veterans who were able to participate as citizens, patriots, and sportsmen, Can there be a better thank you for the sacrifices they have laid down upon the altar of freedom? Freedom that includes the opportunity to enjoy nature, each in our own way.
These guys' ages varied from upper 30s, lower 40s to 68, I believe, and all immediately shared common bonds because of their military history and hunting enthusiasm, and we certainly gained some new lifelong friends out of the experience ourselves. It was just, everybody was out there having a great time. There was no pressure, just enjoying life. I think a tremendous experience for everyone. To see the effect that being able to get back into the woods after an injury and just the healing effect of being around camp and around friends and actually getting back out in the woods and enjoying nature was just tremendous, and it really touched all of our hearts that were involved. So it was extra special for us to be able to make sure that these veterans had just a tremendous time and a good overall hunting experience, and all of the veterans' tags were filled.
Closed captioning provided by the Dallas Safari Club, promoting conservation and ethical hunting worldwide.